My name is Mai. If you're listening to this story from somewhere in the United States, Australia, or anywhere else in the world, thank you for taking a few minutes to hear my story. If you saw me today, a Vietnamese woman working as an automotive technician with grease on my hands and tools in my pockets, you might think I was born strong. But the truth is very different. I grew up in a family so poor that there were days when my mother pretended she had already eaten so her children could have a little more food. I still remember our tiny house. When it rained, water poured through the roof like small streams. On stormy nights, nobody slept. We placed buckets and bowls all over the floor to catch the leaks. Have any of you ever grown up in a house like that? If so, I'd love to know where you're from and what your story is. I believe everyone carries a story the world has never heard. My childhood had no expensive toys, no vacations, no birthday parties. The only thing I had was a dream. The problem was that I was too young to understand what that dream was. My father worked any job he could find: construction work, loading trucks, repairing motorcycles for neighbors. Every afternoon after school, I would sit beside him and watch. I loved seeing machines taken apart. I loved the smell of metal. I loved the feeling that something broken could come back to life. Looking back, that was probably the moment my passion for mechanic was born. But where I grew up, girls were not expected to become mechanics. People said girls should choose easier jobs. Girls should focus on getting married. Girls don't understand machines. I heard those words hundreds of times, and I wonder, have any of the women listening ever been told they couldn't do something simply because they were women? I'd truly love to hear your story. When I was 15, my family faced our hardest years. My father suffered a workplace accident. For months, he couldn't do heavy work. Everything fell on my mother's shoulders. After school, I started working, selling vegetables, washing dishes, doing whatever I could to help. Some nights I worked until late and still had homework waiting for me. I cried more times than I can count, not because the work was hard, but because the future felt impossible to see. My classmates had new books, nice clothes, money to join activities. I had to count every coin. I know what insecurity feels like. I know what it feels like to be left behind. But eventually, I learned something important. Being poor is not shameful. Giving up is. That was the first lesson life taught me. When I turned 18, I stood at a crossroads. I could choose a safe and comfortable career like everyone expected, or I could follow the thing my heart had loved for years: machines, engines, cars. I chose the second path, and that's when the real battle began. On my first day in an automotive repair shop, I was the only woman there. People looked at me with doubt. Some laughed, some shook their heads. One man even said, "She won't last a month." I heard every word, but I didn't argue. I worked day after day, week after week, month after month. I learned how to rebuild engines. I learned how to repair air conditioning systems. I learned how to replace alternators. I learned how to diagnose electrical problems. I learned until my hands were covered with cuts and scars. There were nights when my arms hurt so much I could barely lift a bowl of rice. Yet deep inside, I felt happy. For the first time in my life, I knew I was walking the path I was meant to follow. What would you have done? Would you quit when the whole world doubted you? Or would you keep moving forward? I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts, because my story is only beginning.
Can you picture my life and circumstances to some extent? If so, please share your thoughts with me and continue to follow my journey ahead. Thank you.